Hey, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. And today we are going to talk to Gophers great Darrell Thompson, former Packer. What does he think about this Packer running back room? Is it better than the Vikings, or does his green and gold not shine as bright as his love for the purple? Because he grew up in Minnesota in Rochester. He also then was recruited to play in Wisconsin and said, nah, I want to be a Gopher, and he decided to do that. So let's see what he thinks about these Gophers running backs, because he was a former NFL running back, played for the Packers, but where's his heart lie? Is he more analytical, or is he going to go with his heart and just, I love my Vikings? And we're going to talk about Kirk Cousins. Why? He's always getting disrespected. Stay tuned and find out why.
On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. One-of-a-kind opinions, big-name guests, the teams you care about every day. It's the Ron Johnson Show, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Ron Johnson Show, and I'm your host, Ron Johnson. Before we bring Sam Ekstrom in, before we jump into the conversation, I just want to let you know, we're going to have Darrell Thompson on in the Hanging with Ron Johnson segment. He has a lot to say about Gopher football, about PJ Fleck and Jerry Kill. Everybody's finally starting to see what they saw from a analyst perspective, because he was at the game in the booth and he got to see it. He got to be in the interview room after. So he really got a chance to see between the two, Jerry Kill and PJ Fleck. Where are we at with that? And then he's going to talk about the Gophers running back room, because, he was a former Gophers running back, but he's also going to talk Vikings-Packers running backs. Who is better? And Darrell Thompson is going to let us know about that. But before we jump into that, I got to tell you, Kirk Cousins is getting snubbed. He's getting snubbed again. It's just one of those things where he's going to be disrespecting to Kevin O'Connell, can really put his hands on him. And I'm not saying it's disrespect, because we'll talk about the other quarterbacks they have ranked in front of him. But before we do that, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Minnesota for endless Vikings talk during the football season. It's free and available on lockedonpodcast.com/Minnesota or wherever you get your podcasts. Please leave a 5-star rating and review, and tell your friends about all the shows on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Well, as we jump into this Aaron Rodgers disrespectful conversation, I got to bring in my producer, Sam Ekstrom. Sam, what's the question of the day?
All right. TheRinger.com ranked all the quarterbacks. Now, we've seen myriad rankings throughout this offseason, Ron. We've talked about all of them, and usually Kirk Cousins winds up somewhere in the middle. He is ranked number 15 amongst quarterbacks. Now, you're going to probably get into this, Ron. It is curious, some of the guys they have in front of him, including Trevor Lawrence, number 14. That one I haven't seen before. But Aaron Rodgers, the adversary this Sunday, he is ranked number 1 on the list, above Mahomes, above Brady, above Burrow, above Russell Wilson. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So I got to thinking, how can we reframe this argument? Rodgers is 1, Cousins is 15. Ron, where do you think those rankings are going to fall after we've gone through the season and after we see what plays out in 2022? Is it still going to be Cousins 15 and Rodgers 1, or are those rankings going to be changing?
I think the rankings are going to change. This is why. So when you look at what they say about him, maybe the greatest system QB of this era. So meaning when he's in a system that works, he is one of the greatest QBs out there. Can he fit in with Lamar Jackson's system? No. Would he fit in with a Josh Allen system? Probably not. But Kevin O'Connell, I think, when you see what they did with Matthew Stafford, they had Jared Goff. They were able to make Jared Goff a Super Bowl quarterback. They actually then took Matthew Stafford and won a Super Bowl. So they understand, and he understands how to build a quarterback up and get him into the position that works best for him, because they did it for Jared Goff with the Rams, and then Jared Goff goes to the Lions. And, come on now. So for better or for worse is the comment. But you look at the accuracy, almost 90% accuracy. Arm talent, I think they disrespected him at 74. Creativity, I think they're dead on. He hasn't been creative. But also, has that been because of how he mentally has been taught? Has he not been able to be creative? You look at the decision-making, 88, so almost 90. Pocket presence, 88, almost 90. Pre-snap, 76. Again, pre-snap, was he able to even do stuff that he saw pre-snap? So I look at pre-snap and creativity, and I got to take those out. That's why I think it's going to go up, because when you see the creativity coming up now that he feels like, my coach is not going to be mad at me if I make a mistake. When you look at his pre-snap where my coach says, hey, if you see something, change it, call it, throw a smoke over to Justin Jefferson if you see it. I don't care. Like, just get out of the bad play. Deepest angles of size. They say Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, as painful it is to admit. See, right there, they started out as a hater. Like, that's hating right there. Like, the whole, like, after that, I don't want to read it no more. Like, I don't need to read it anymore because you said as painful as that is to admit. Like, that's just what Kirk Cousins has gotten. Like, that people hate for no reason. Like, after that, do I really want to read the rest of this? Because you're hating from the start. It's time.
Sounds like something I could have written, Ron.
Exactly. That's what I feel like. You sent me this article and you wrote it. But the typical criticism of him are still valid. He doesn't create much offense of his own. How is he going to create offense of his own? Like, literally, Mike Zimmer had a ruler to smack his hand every time he came off the sideline. Like, no. Like, the guy said in a press conference, oh, those are not my – because people are like, why'd you call the timeout? You looked up and saw those aren't my timeouts to use. That's what he said. Those aren't my timeouts to use. So, like, that right there just shows that they did not let Kirk Cousins do what he wanted to do. Is that we've seen Joe Flacco win a ring, so there's no reason why Kirk can't lead a stacked team to a Super Bowl. I just wouldn't want to be the franchise that pays him to try. Again, more hate on top of hate. Like, his biggest strength, pocket presence. His biggest weakness, creativity. Creativity is not a weakness. Creativity is something that a coach says, don't do it. Like, think about your kids, how creative they could be if you say, hey, here's some paint. I don't care what you do to my house. Just go do it. They could get super good. But if you say, hey, draw on that paper, and you better not go outside that line, and you better not get it on my carpet, you better not get it on your clothes, like, they're not going to be super creative. They're going to be like, all right, let me make sure I stay inside the lines. I don't want to mess this up because mom's going to be mad if I get paint on the table. Like, that's what you get. When you say, put on a white t-shirt, go outside, here's some cardboard, just go crazy on this art project, then they come back in the house with like a ridiculous art project. Kirk Cousins hasn't been able to paint. Like, he hasn't. He's had to color inside the lines with a pencil that he can erase when he makes a mistake. Like, that's where I see Kirk Cousins going now, that it's like, hey, dude, go be Picasso. Go paint. Like, go out there. Go do something. That's what Kevin O'Connell wants. He's like, I don't want to have to tell you what to do. I want to help you through this process. And that's what I feel like as a former quarterback and a former quarterback's coach who won a Super Bowl, that they're going to get out of Kirk Cousins. But when I go up to other things, so you look at David Carr, talented quarterback. He just needs to live a little. Like, his accuracy is lower than Kirk Cousins. His arm talent is lower than Kirk Cousins. His creativity is the same. His decision making is lower. His pocket presence is lower. His pre-snap is 92. Why? Because they barely had a coach half the time. And so his pre-snap is high. So how are you lower in every metric, but you're higher ranked? Like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't know if something's double weighted or what. Trevor Lawrence, generational talent. Creativity, 80. So we'll see what that is. Again, I don't think they ever had an offense. Decision-making, lower than Kirk Cousins. Pocket presence, lower than Kirk Cousins. And his pre-snap is lower than Kirk Cousins. But he's ranked higher. How? His hair, because he reminds us of Sunshine from Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington. Like, come on now. Like, what are we doing here? Matt Ryan, that old dude getting buckets at the YMCA pickup game. That's what they said. He is a good NFL quarterback, but his accuracy is lower. His arm talent is lower. His decision-making is higher. His pocket presence is the same, and his pre-snap is 90-6. Like, how do you know that? Like, you don't know what the call was called before the snap. Like, I guess they may be interviewing people. No. Like, come on. So that's where I get a little bit like Matthew Stafford. Yep, he deserves to be up there. Kyler Murray, I still don't know about that one, but he's athletic. Joe Burrow, yep, I agree. Lamar Jackson, I agree. Dak is always one that throws me off, but we'll see. I think he's benefited from a great team, great running back, great line. Russell Wilson, I agree. Agent of chaos. Josh Allen, yep. Tom Brady, yep. Justin Herbert, yeah, gets good. Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. So I'm not saying the list is not right. I'm saying it's good. I just think Kirk Cousins should be up to like number 12. I think Kirk Cousins is way too low. Matt Ryan, Derek Carr, Trevor Lawrence should be below Kirk Cousins. The numbers say it alone. Like, you got Kirk Cousins at 81.7, Trevor Lawrence at 81.8. Ooh. And then all of a sudden, Derek Carr's 83.4, and then you got Matt Ryan 83 or 84.9. Like, come on now. 81 0.7 is lower than the 81.8 because of something that you really don't know pre-snap. And you're giving this guy creativity, which who knows, and you're giving his arm talent a lot. 92. That's what put him ahead of Kirk Cousins. So you're putting his arm talent, and this is where I go with that. You're saying Trevor Lawrence's arm talent is pretty much the same as Matthew Stafford. BS. And it's better than Joe Burrow. Yeah. So that's where I go with that. I don't agree with it. He's being disrespected, Sam, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Once again, I think that some of the criticisms are valid. Some of the numbers that are in the story are kind of arbitrary, like the pre-snap stuff. That's definitely just one person sort of making it up as they go along. It's really hard to measure. Mm-hmm. Trevor Lawrence being in front of him is ridiculous. Matt Ryan is ridiculous too. Derek Carr, I'm higher on Derek Carr than some people, but Matt Ryan has had like 3 or 4 terrible years. Horrible.
Yep.
He's older. He's declining. Maybe at his peak he would have been number 12. He's not number 12 now. I mean, I guess there's a chance at rejuvenation in the Colts system, but I am actually, I can say nice things about Kirk Cousins, Ron. I mean, let's call a spade here. I call it like I see it. I think he's better than Lawrence. I think he's better than Ryan. I don't think 15 is high enough for him. How about that? How's that? Are you happy with me?
A little bit. You're going to come over to the other side. Once Kevin O'Connell gets his hands on Kirk Cousins in his first game, that's why at 325, I'm excited. I haven't been excited to watch a game live in a while. I'm excited. I'm excited to see this game on Sunday because I truly feel like there's going to be fireworks. Like there's going to be good or bad. I don't know. Maybe there'll be fireworks shooting himself in the foot. We'll see. But I'm excited to see what Kirk Cousins can do because he hasn't done anything all offseason. He hasn't really thrown in any live situations besides the 49ers, but you can't hit him in those. So I'm excited. But I'm a little bit more excited to sit down with my guy, Darrell Thompson. I'm looking forward to it. Darrell just he knows running backs. He talks about them a lot on TV. He talks about them on the radio. So I'm really looking forward to that. But before we jump into the Darrell Thompson conversation, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Minnesota on YouTube, where you can find all the videos of all our shows, instant podcasts after every game, and the Vikings press conferences delivering all the biggest news. Please like our videos and leave your thoughts in the comment section. Subscribe to Locked On Sports Minnesota for endless Vikings talk from local experts.
And if you haven't tried Built Puffs yet, what are you doing? You got to get your hands on some cookie dough chunk puffs from Built Barr, the light, chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks, 100% real chocolate, only 160 calories, and a whopping 15 grams of protein in these Built Barr cookie dough chunk puffs. They are so delicious, and they are covered in collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides a ton of health benefits. You're absolutely going to love this snack. You can buy a bunch for your family or you can hoard them for yourself, but it's the perfect protein bar. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKEDON15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKEDON15.
Coming up on the Ron Johnson Show, hanging out with Ron Johnson today. We kind of double dutied this one. We have a guy, running back, Darrell Thompson, played with the Packers. So we're going to talk a little Packers-Vikings, but he also played for the Gophers, of course. Best Gophers running back in Gophers statistical running back history. Darrell, I want to thank you for joining me on the Ron Johnson Show.
Thanks for having me, Ron. I appreciate it.
So let's jump out there right away. Gophers kind of ran away with this New Mexico State game. I just had PJ Fleck on the PJ Fleck Show last night, and his biggest takeaway was, of course, there's always things they could do better. He said that the defense only played 33 snaps, so tough to really get a gauge on how they're going to completely be, but they have stuff they can work on. But we didn't want to do it. We thought about asking about Jerry Kill, but we left it alone. But after the Jerry Kill handshake, the long conversation, do you think we finally can put this to bed and Jerry Kill can move on?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's time for it to move on. I think it's time for Jerry Kill to move on from just some of the negative comments he said. So I just feel like it's time for all of us to move on, and hopefully we can do that, especially after last weekend. And Coach Fleck had nothing but good things to say about Coach Kill, from him being on his staff back when he was just got out of the NFL to I appreciate everything he did and laying the foundation. So I think he was, I'd say, more than a gentleman about it. I'm sure he could have gone down the tunnel and started playing games, but he didn't. So I like it.
Yeah, and so when you look at that game, though, 38-0, there was no doubt in anybody's mind who the better team was. In the third quarter, PJ Fleck started running the 4-minute offense where he was taking time off the clock, taking time before running the next play. He even said on the PJ Fleck show, he said, you know what, I could have run the score up, but I didn't. He said, but I also couldn't let my freshman quarterback get in there and not have an opportunity to just run our offense. So when you hear stuff like that, when he says he could have run the score up, but he didn't, have we not even seen what this offense truly can be?
You know what? I think we saw some of it, especially in the first quarter run. I mean, I love that he opened up the first two plays of the game. He put the ball in the air. Give Chris Ottman-Bell an opportunity to catch the ball and make a play. And then on the next play, the other young receiver gets an opportunity as well. So I think that there's certainly some things we haven't seen, and maybe a little bit more. But I think that we have a good idea what they can do, and I look forward to seeing a lot more of it.
Yeah, and looking at PJ Fleck, Jerry Kill, now we're done with that. We're moving on. We're moving completely on.
Yeah.
Now you have Mo Ibrahim back. And PJ said this world showed him what a player's really worth, because he said when Mo got hurt, you saw NIL deals go away. You saw people that were asking for his services were no longer reaching out for him anymore. What can a guy like Mo, because you were in that position as a running back going to the NFL, what can a guy like Mo learn from being hurt, not off the field or not on the field, but more so off the field, like how he was seen, how he was treated? What is this? I mean, it's a business. We get that. But what can Mo have learned from this offseason?
Well, I think we all go there eventually. Hopefully Mo has an opportunity to play in the NFL, and I think he will. He's a very, very good he's a great running back. He's not a very good running back. He's a great running back. He's going to have an opportunity to play in the NFL, and eventually the NFL stands for not for long, besides National Football League. So there's going to be a time where you become invisible, where you become hurt, and that's happened. But I think it also gives you an appreciation for what you have and teaches you the importance of taking care of your body, resting, recuperation. I don't think it had anything to do with him getting injured last year. I think it was just a freak accident. The Achilles is like, it's time for me to go, and it went. And he spent a whole year rehabbing it, and he's ready to roll now. But I believe that when you're injured, you appreciate when you're healthy a lot more after you're injured. And I think that's what he's going to take out of it most, Ron.
Yeah, and so Chris Ottman-Bell, you talked about that, Dalen Wright, 38-0, New Mexico State. Gophers get the easy victory. Western Illinois coming up. When you look at Western Illinois, is there anything from this team, and never to take anything away from a team, because look at Bowling Green when they came in here, but is there anything from this team that Gopher fans should be worried about?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a team that a lot like what Coach Kill came in here many years ago. Coach Fleck's coming here. They're a team that says, you know what, this is their big game. This is their opportunity to come in here, knock off a big dog, see if they can do a reverse, a punt, an interception, something to get some momentum going their way and to get us back on our heels. We've got to be fundamentally sound, play fast, pay attention to our keys, and realize that every single play matters. And you play like that, and I feel like that's how I feel like we were playing against New Mexico State. I didn't feel like there was any letdown. There was complete focus offensively and defense. The speed, the discipline was extremely, and particularly, I know there was only 33 plays on defense, Ron, but the plays that were on defense were fundamentally sound. They played with speed, even the interception at the end of the game. He got back on top of him on his route tree. Hey, you know what? We're going to a little bump. I'm going to go get this ball. We're going to seal this game up. So it was really the discipline of the defense, from the pass rush to the underneath coverage to the, when they took a shot in the end zone. All those pieces were very, very impressive to me.
Yeah, and the Gophers, again, 38-0 over New Mexico State. Now they turn around, they have to play Western Illinois. And then we have Colorado, which I think that's what everyone's looking forward to. Mike Sanford Jr. coming back into the building. I don't think there'll be an issue with a handshake there. But maybe Kirk Shiraka, Mike Sanford Jr., we can create some kind of buzz around that. When you look at, let's fast forward and let's transition. Let's transition into the NFL. Now, you play for the Packers, 60 games. What are some of your border battle memories? Because you went from a Gopher versus Wisconsin, and then you were on the other side, Packer versus Viking. What are some of your memories as a Packer coming back to Minnesota, kind of like, I'm not the – and were you still the hometown favorite, or were people like, oh, no, he's a Packer now?
It was weird. It was a really weird thing because, grow up, a Minnesota Viking fan. I'm a kid. I grew up here in Minnesota, and Leo Lewis and Carl Eller. And, I met some of those guys when I was in college, Joey Browner, DJ Dozier. So all those guys were kind of friends of mine, and they took me under their wing a little bit. But when I got drafted by the Packers, things were different. In the first game, they congratulated me on being in the NFL. When I played against them, I did score my very first touchdown against the Minnesota Vikings at County Stadium in Milwaukee, where the Packers don't play any longer. So it was always fun for me to play against not Minnesota, but to play against the Vikings because it was my hometown team that I grew up, and I knew probably a handful of guys on the team that I either worked out with or been around or seen them around in the off season or in the summer times and pieces like that. Then it was always the Bears. The Bears was our big rival. The Bears and the Vikings are the two big rivals for the Packers, and they probably always will be.
And now the Packers come into the building. You got Aaron Rodgers, who's immunized, who admitted purposefully I lied to the media because I just didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to deal with what Kirk Cousins dealt with, which I don't think Kirk Cousins dealt with a lot. I think he was honest, and then we moved on. Do you think Aaron Rodgers should have handled it the way Kirk Cousins handled that topic?
Oh, absolutely. I think he could handle it. I think it was very, very it wasn't truthful the way it was handled. It just wasn't. I said, well, it was a long answer, and I was like, then I kind of just moved on, and I was like, so, okay, maybe he got a shot. I don't, and I'm just like, whatever. You want to get a shot? Get a shot. You don't want to get a shot? Don't get a shot. Just don't tell me or lead me on to think that you got a shot. So it is what it is. He's young, he's very healthy. He's got multiple supplements he can take. I'm sure he's taking tremendous care of himself. So those aren't the people I'm really worried about. It's kind of, it's the old people, the frail people, the immunocompromised people. That's what I'm concerned about. So, right. But it was misleading. His statement was extremely misleading and long. It was a long, misleading statement.
It was. Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook. Does it feel like the Vikings now have the edge over the Packers on paper? Because usually it was always kind of either head-to-head or the Packers just were better. Without Devontae Adams, do you think that brings them back to the pack now?
Oh, it's going to be really interesting to see. I'm thinking like anyone. I think, there's Tom Brady, there's Aaron Rodgers, and then there's the rest of the guys. These guys are, they're playing chess when the other people are playing, checkers or, playing, just kind of playing games. So I have a tremendous amount of confidence. I think everyone does in Aaron Rodgers as a football player. So that to me still gives him, but I think without Devontae Adams, it's a tremendous. He is one of the prettiest route runners I've ever seen. Just he makes it look easy. Everything he does, from his release to the way he catches the ball, the way he moves, he runs after the catch. All those things are phenomenal. So he's a big loss. So we'll have to see how the Packers can replace him. But I do think that it does give Kirk Cousins an edge at home, especially with Justin and Thielen and all the other options that he has here.
And when you look at Devondre Campbell, former Gopher, so I'm rooting for him, always have been. $50 million after being a free agent. Like any team in the country could have picked him up, and no team reached out to him for a couple of weeks. Then all of a sudden the Packers make like a last ditch, like, hey, well, yeah, I did coach this guy with the Cardinals. Let's bring him in and see what he can do. And all of a sudden now he's like a top 50 player in the NFL, not linebacker, top 50 player. He's one of the top 10 linebackers now in the NFL. Why do you think that happens where there's guys that really are good, but they just end up on the street somehow until another team finds a way to use them?
Well, sometimes it's the system they're in, or sometimes it's just the coach that they're working with. They don't quite click, or maybe there's an injury, or sometimes a little bit like we had Ortiz here with the Twins. He went to the Red Sox. He became one of the best players to ever play professional baseball. Not the best players, but a phenomenal player all time. Got paid a lot of money. And I think Devondre might have gone through that same piece. He was with Atlanta playing well, but he's like, you know what? Things didn't quite work out. They got released. Maybe they drafted someone else. I don't know the whole situation, but he was out on the street for a little bit. But he also took advantage of his opportunity when he got back to the Packers. He came in. He played extremely well. And so to me, it's like, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. He got the $50 million, so he deserves the $50 million.
Oh yeah.
So I'm totally cool with that. I'm happy for him. I'm proud of him, and it's exciting that he is, that he's one of the leaders on that team. And I think he's gonna finish his career out there very, very well.
Yeah, no, when he was on the street, the minute they cut him, I tweeted, I'm going to have to find that tweet. I said the Vikings need to get him, and Vikings fans argued with me that, no, you don't want a guy like that. I'm like, yes, you do. He's better than Anthony Barr when it comes to playing true linebacker. And I didn't know this 3-4 was coming, But then once I saw that, like I saw that they brought in Dom Capers, and that was Mike Zimmer. I'm like, Dom Capers runs a 3-4 defense, so why not bring in a tweener backer who can play outside and middle and play the Mo and the Mike? And so I called it. I called the shot. I knew he'd be good. Just from his size, his speed. When you watch the tape, I mean, he played against the Vikings with the Falcons. He looked really good in space with a guy like Dalvin Cook, who's one of the best running backs out there. And if you can stay with Dalvin Cook step for step, you're one of the best linebackers out there. But again, you're right. I think that it's coaching. You know, the Falcons coaches were getting fired. You got the Cardinals coaches who were kind of in turmoil, figuring out their money situation. It could have been money. Like maybe he wanted, a lot. And they're like, we don't want to offer you $50 million. And the Packers found a way. They got rid of Devontae Adams, which freed up a ton of cash for them, which they gave Aaron Rodgers a lot of it. I think over $300 million. And then they gave Devondre Campbell 50. So no, I think he definitely deserved it. I wish the Vikings had got him because they brought in Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks is good, but I think Devondre Campbell would have been a better fit and a better piece in that 3-4 defense. But we have to move on. That's spilled milk, and we can't cry over it. Daryl, last one before we get out of here. So we were at the Gophers volleyball game, and you support all Gopher sports, but I know your daughter played volleyball, so you've been your wife played volleyball, so you were a volleyball. Your sister played volleyball at Iowa as well, so you're a volleyball guy. But when you look at Gopher sports and situations like that where these games are selling out, but it's not a ton of like talk about it. And we were sitting there like, man, these are some great athletes. What do you think is going to take for college sports for this Title IX to really start to kick it into gear to realize these volleyball girls are very marketable. These softball girls are very marketable.
That's a tough question. I think it's going to take a lot of things. Number one, it's going to take winning. It's going to take success. And it's going to take a commitment from the corporate community to be like, you know what? I want to support Paige Bilkers. I want to support Booth, the young lady that plays volleyball for the University of Minnesota, Lindsay Whalen. The corporate community needs to get behind, some of these people, and maybe a little bit early. To waiting until they're completely successful is not always the case. It needs to happen. So it feels like, to me, it would need to come from the corporate community where they say, you know what, we're going to get behind these young ladies just like we get behind the young men. And support them just like we do, because there's advertising dollars, there's marketing dollars that can be associated and attached to them. So to me, it feels like that would be the way for us to move the needle forward, because really it comes down at the end of the day to dollars, and to that corporate community needs to support the young ladies the same way they support the young men.
And I lie, just like any coach, I say one last 110. You got one more. Before we jump into the Daily 3, Daryl, got one more question for you. College football switch to 12 teams in 2026 is the thought. PJ Fleck, again, he talked about it on the PJ Fleck show yesterday with me and Pierre and Justin Guard. And he was like, look, for Minnesota, I love it. He's like, a couple years ago, 2019, we would have been in the mix. Like, we were right up there in that top 12, top 15 conversation. So we would have been able to play in if we had I think they would have had to beat like Wisconsin that year or something, or Iowa, and they'd be in it. They'd be in the top 12. What do you think about that now going to 12?
Oh, I think it's exciting. There's things to figure out just as far as the bowl games and the revenue, because it is fun. You get an opportunity you get extra practices. I'm never excited about extra practices, but I'm excited about extra games and a bowl game and a travel and all that type of stuff. So, but the piece for the young men to have 12 teams versus like now it's tough. Really, really tough when you only got like 14. But if you can expand to 12, so then everyone's got an opportunity. The smaller conference teams and non-power 5 teams, they might have 2 or maybe even 3 teams in there, and you get some of the that second level out of the Big Ten and and the SEC. So I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, because Boise State beat Oklahoma that year. I mean, it can happen. Like the Gophers beat Auburn. So you just never really, and that was the year PJ's talking about with Tyler Johnson and Rashad Bateman. Like they were good enough to beat most of the SEC teams, probably other than Alabama, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in 2019. But I mean, they beat Auburn. So I definitely agree with it. I like it. He said the same thing you just said, though. It's funny. He said the same exact thing. He said, we got to protect some of these bowl games. He said, we got to protect the players as well. And again, overtime. One last one, Daryl. Mental Health Awareness Week for the Gophers. PJ Fleck is going to bring in Rachel Balboa again. She's been talking to the teams over the last 6 years. We've seen a lot of players, like Stanford had a player, athlete, commit suicide. You've seen a couple other schools have kids. A mom from Iowa commented on the Gophers page when PJ announced that he was doing the Mental Awareness Week, that her son had committed suicide at Iowa. Why is this mental health becoming more important It's always been important, but I think now it's good that coaches are calling. But why is it becoming more important now?
Well, I think because people are realizing after you lose a life, and I think with social media and with our current climate, politically and everything else, what we've seen down in Texas, the young man that shot and killed those kids inside the school, that we need to be aware that there are people that have mental health issues. So I can't speak loudly enough from what I do on a daily basis with the organization I run, Boulder Options, that mental health is a real issue that our country needs to realize is important. So Coach Fleck and the other schools and teams and people like yourself and broadcasters bringing attention and awareness to it is very, very important. So I can't speak enough about the importance of bringing awareness to mental health. And sometimes somebody might need a break, or that might need to go talk to someone about a situation versus stuffing it down inside. Then it squirts out somewhere where we all see something terrible happening.
Yeah. A lot of kids just transfer and go home. They call it homesickness. There was a lot of things I think where we could probably look back on the 80s and 90s and early 2000s and say, that probably was just mental health. And we chalked it up to drinking too much, or we chalked it up to a bad kid, or we chalked it up to, ADD. They can't pay attention. Like it's probably something else going on, anxiety or something they don't know. And yeah, it is one of those things, but I'm glad PJ Fleck is going to call it out, and continue to push the envelope. He said it's okay to not be okay. He also said you sometimes can be okay and still want to talk to somebody. He said, he's like, we need to take the stigma away that it has to be something wrong in order to want help. And also take the stigma away that it's wrong to like not be mentally there. Like, I am not okay right now. I'm either exhausted. My family had somebody died in my family, so on and so forth. And he's allowing players to, as he calls it, remove their armor, come in with the coaches and people they can trust, and other players, maybe if they don't trust a coach, come to a player and just open up. And then eventually hopefully they can heal, because when it's time to put that armor back on, you're not worried. You're not somewhere else mentally. And I think even Tom Brady, I think we forget about that. He said, I'm 45 and stuff happens, expletive. Hey, at 45, yeah, it's a lot going on with kids, wife, family. Like Tom Brady looked like he needed an 11-day break to just get his life back together for a little bit. And we forget that. We sometimes think it's all about this sport and we're supposed to be warriors, and it is what it is. But now is the time I love. We're going to have Darrell Thompson stick around with me on the Daily 3. That's 3 questions, 3 minutes each. I'm going to take a minute 30. Darrell's going to take a minute 30. But before we jump into that, do you want instant post-game reaction from insiders that cover your favorite teams? Check out our Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Following every Twins, Vikings, Wild, or Wolves game, our Locked On team hosts are broadcasting live with team insiders. Catch Luke Braun and Sam Ekstrom after every Vikings game, hopefully a win. And then let's catch Brandon Warren and Nash Walker recapping every Twins game, because it's getting crazy. Never miss a podcast by subscribing to Locked On Sports Minnesota's YouTube channel. It's that time. Sam, take it away.
I got 3 questions here. It's kind of a mix of Packers, Vikings, Gophers, Badgers. Starting with, which NFL team has the superior running back room? The Vikings, Cook and Madison, or the Packers with Jones and Dillon? Ron, we'll let you lead, and then Darrell, you can give your 2 cents.
Oh, that's tough. I can't say a tie. So this is where I'll give the slight edge. I got to give the slight edge to the Packers. And the only reason why is they're 1A. They have a 1A and 1B. I feel like the Vikings have a 1 and a 2. And when you have a 1A and 1B, it gives you a little bit more. I mean, you see they drafted a guy early. Aaron Rodgers at the time wasn't happy. He wanted to draft a receiver, but they drafted a running back, and it worked out. Matt LaFleur was like, look, I saw what the 49ers are doing. I see how they're using multiple running backs to just drain the clock out, kill teams, physically beat them up, and then throw the ball with Jimmy Garoppolo every once in a while. And Matt LaFleur is like, you know what? I got a really good quarterback. So if I can do the same thing, my quarterback can actually win games. So I got to give it to the Packers, because Dalvin Cook is one better than both of those guys. But Alexander Madison, to me, I wouldn't take him over A.J. Dillon. And I think that's where, so, if I were to rank those 4, I would go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 Dalvin, and then the 2 Packers running backs in there, and then Alexander Madison. And so because of that, it's a 5+. If you do the math, it's 5 and 5. It's even. But I got to give the edge to the fact that either one of the 2 Packers running backs could be a 1A situation. I don't really feel like Madison is ever truly, at least not right now, he's never really shown he can completely be the one. It's always been like, oh, we missed that hole. Oh, he didn't do this route. Oh, he missed this read. And maybe it's with repetition. Maybe repetition, he can get better and get more of that game speed. But no, I got to go with the Packers.
Oh my, that was a lot, Ron. A lot of mathematics involved with that and everything else. I'm simple and clean, man. I'll tell you, I like the Vikings running back room. You know, I like Cook. I like Madison. I think Madison, if he was given an opportunity to do more, he'd be able to do more. But I really do feel like it's Dalvin Cook's job, his speed, his acceleration, his ability to read, and I think he's one of the top, I don't know, probably 5 running backs in NFL. So to me, I think you got that. And I think with Madison, you have what you need in your backup. And I think if need be, he can carry a little bit more water. And I do think that the Packers have talent in that backfield, but I don't think they have the same level of talent they have at the Vikings level. So for me, the Vikings would be number 1, actually by a good piece, and then the Packers would be number 2. So that's what I ride with. I'll leave a couple extra seconds on the clock for Sam.
Yeah, I think that the Vikings, if you include even their deeper depth, like their 3 with Kene Nwangwu and Ty Chandler, the rookie, who looks really good at number 4, I think the Vikings actually have better depth all the way down. I probably would have actually sided with Ron if we were just taking the top 2 from each. For the same reasons Ron said, I just think that Dillon is a really high-end backup. So I might have leaned Packers, but I like that there's a little bit of disagreement there, so that's good.
You know what? But Darrell's like what he said. That's where I was kind of leaning, but I can't do it. I had to pick one. But yeah, I think Madison can carry it. I just don't feel like they're going to give him the opportunity. At least, hopefully, if Dalvin Cook stays healthy. But yeah, no, I that's a tough one. That's a tough question.
Yeah. Here's another tough question. Let's talk rivalries. Which is the bigger rivalry, Vikings-Packers or Gophers-Badgers? And remember, Gophers-Badgers, that could be other sports too, not just football. But let's go with Daryl first this time.
Vikings, Packers, or Badgers, Gophers. Ooh, that is a tough one. I might lean towards the Badgers and the Gophers being a bigger rival. So, and I don't, I guess I've been lucky enough to play in, both of those games. I do feel like that rivalry with the axe, the intensity, the history of the game really, really makes it an exciting game. It means a lot. And the piece I think about is when I was getting recruited, I got recruited by Wisconsin. Wisconsin wasn't very good then, but they came after me really hard. They were really excited about the potential of me being a Badger running back. It didn't work out at all. I'm really glad I ended up coming here, but I feel like that, to me, being recruited there, all those pieces make it that would be the number 1 rivalry. So I think the Viking Packer would be number 2, and the Badger Gopher would be number 1.
Ooh, I'm gonna I'm gonna say football only. So if we're talking football, let's go football.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I'm gonna say Vikings Packers is because they've made a battle of it the last couple of years. I'd say in the last PJ Fleck era, Gophers Badgers for sure, no doubt. But I have to go back and look at Brewster and what that looked like, and then kind of towards the end of Mason. And the Badgers fans even say it's not even a rivalry. Like, we won it 15 out of whatever times. And so I lean towards Vikings Packers because it is one of those games where you don't know who's going to win. For a while with Badgers Gophers, it just seemed like the Badgers just had it. That's a tough one, but I do like the fact that, like, the axe, like, that is like the biggest trophy ever. So, I talked myself into it. I got to go Gophers Badgers for the axe. Like, the axe makes that a true rivalry. I feel like the Packers have so many other rivals when you look at the NFC, because you got the 49ers in them with the playoffs. You got the Seahawks in them with the playoffs. Whereas the Vikings, for a while, they just weren't getting there. Like, it was like hit or miss. 2009, I think, Brett Favre. Was that 2008 or 2014 or 15 or something like that with Diggs? I can't remember which one that was, or 16 even. But the miracle year. So yeah, there's been hit or misses, but I got to go. I'm gonna go Gophers Badgers. Gophers Badgers. I'm gonna do it. I think the axe really has brought it out, and PJ has made it a battle now the last 4 years.
Yeah, I think you're right about the history and the axe and all the emotion around it. To me, though, it just feels bigger when it's Vikings-Packers, and maybe it's because you've got familiar faces on both sides. College players are changing all the time, but it's always been Rodgers on one side, the Vikings on the other side, Kirk Cousins for the last 5 years. You just get to know the people in the rivalry so much better. So for me, it's football, but I'll take your words for it because you guys both played in that Gophers-Badgers rivalry. And in Darrell's case,
I mean, come on. Tanner Morgan's been here for 6 years. Chris Ottman-Bell's been here 6 years.
You're right. You're not wrong about that.
Yeah, Mohamed Ibrahim is his 6th year. So yeah, we have some guys that have been around. We got some seniority.
Yep, that's very true. Very true. Last one. More likely to win their division, Vikings or Gophers? Start with Ron Johnson this time.
And we're talking division. Okay. So are we talking the West for the Gophers?
We're talking the West. Yeah, not the whole Big Ten, just the West.
Okay. So the West. I am going to have to go with the Gophers, though. Like, I got to go with the Gophers. I think when you look at Wisconsin, Iowa, you look at Mo Ibrahim, if he can stay healthy. You got Kirk Shiraka back, and that offense looks good. The defense is flying around. Mariano Sori-Marin looks good. You got the DBs who are all, Justin Wiley is playing lights out right now, even though it was New Mexico State, but he looked really good last year as a freshman. So I feel like the Gophers can win the West. I feel like it's going to be a 3-headed monster. It's going to be Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, and it's going to come down to who can. And they don't have to win every game. They just have to win more than one of the other two teams. And I feel like the Big Ten is going to cannibalize itself some way, somehow, where Wisconsin might lose to Iowa or somebody they shouldn't. And Iowa's definitely going to lose to somebody they shouldn't. They almost lost to South Dakota State. So I feel like right now it's a Wisconsin Gophers, head-to-head. That's going to bring it down to the wire of who's going to win the West. So I got to go Gophers on that one.
It's interesting because I like the Vikings opportunity this year. I think we talked about earlier with the Packers and the loss of Devontae Adams. So I think if there's going to be a year where they could come out of there and do something, I don't think the Lions are going to do anything yet, and I don't think there's anyone else. So I think it'll be a challenge there. But I do come back to this is our year. And the seniority that we have is kind of, joking about those guys being there a long time. There's a benefit to Sori-Marin, being his 5th or 6th year. There's a benefit to Tanner Morgan coming back, Ottman-Bell, Mohamed Ibrahim, Trey Potts, and the rest of those, and a couple offensive linemen. So there is, it would be really, really difficult for me to not believe that this would be a year that the Gophers could truly win the West. And I do, Ron, I do agree 100% with that, your analysis of that secondary. They're strong, they're fast, they're athletic, and they're deep. The Michael Dixon kid. There's some other kids out there that are playing well and can handle themselves well. They got some big, tough, fast linebackers on the inside too. So I think it's this is the year for the Gophers to win the West.
Oh yeah, here we go, Big Ten championship. Here we come, and I'm definitely going to make sure I can get there. But I want to thank Daryl Thompson for joining me on the Ron Johnson Show. I want to thank Sam. I want to thank Matt DeBricks back there on the 1s and 2s. But before we get out of here, when you subscribe to Locked On Sports Minnesota, you're getting endless Vikings talk with local experts. Sam and I talk football every day on the Ron Johnson Show. Reggie Wilson gives a sports anchor's perspective on superior sports talk. And the Minnesota Football Party brings together all the top Vikings podcasters in the city. Just subscribe to the free Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast feed on lockedonpodcast.com/Minnesota or wherever you find your podcast. And find our videos on the Locked On Sports Minnesota's YouTube channel. I want to thank everybody for joining us and have a great day.